Well, look who has returned. Hi guys, hope you've had an awesome week. This week has been super busy for me, but today we're talking about character sketches. This is week 2 in my series, How to Write a Novel. Last week we talked about the overview of the process, and today we're biting into the deeper parts of the process. Now, most people when they hear character sketch will probably think of a physical drawing of a character, and that's all fine and well, you could do that. But let's face it, most of us at best, our drawings look like something that came out of a primitive cave painting. Me make art! But never to fear, character sketches are not physical drawings of characters. It's nothing more than writing some words, and you're a writer, so you gotta write some words. And you gotta bear in mind that all of these tips won't work for every type of character. Especially fantasy characters I'm thinking of will probably be a little bit fickle. These are just my opinions, my process for what I do when I'm writing modern day characters, and you can take my process and morph it and make it however you want it to make it work for you. The idea behind a character sketch is that you want to know every single detail about your character's life before they walk on stage of your novel so that they don't fall flat or seem two-dimensional. Even though I do use Scrivener's template sheets, my character sketches are always a bit more complicated than the presets, so it's worth noting that most or all of what I'm about to say comes from Robert J. Ray's book, The Weekend Novelist, so if you want to know a lot more about that, go pick it up on Amazon. But for those of you who don't have Scrivener and you don't know Robert J. Ray, let's start from the beginning. To store your character sketches, you probably want to start another Word document or OpenOffice document to put your character sketches in, or if you like the classics, get a new folder out and start a folder with your character sketches on pen and paper. To start out with on your character sketches, you want to have your character's name on the top of the page. Next, you're going to list a lot of physical and emotional descriptors about that character. Let's take a look at one of my character sketches that I did for my main character from Dallas 911, Emilia. Now keep in mind this is just the bare bones template of who the character is. We're giving them a skeleton so that we can work off of it and put greater detail in later. Bear in mind also that most physical descriptors have to do with the personality of the character more than just what they look like. So a lot of what I have written here describes Emilia's personality, even though we're just talking about what she looks like. The categories that I have listed for Emilia and that I list for all of my characters is weight and height, hair, sex, dress, body, shoes, face, mouth, poses with hand gestures, build, arms and legs, imperfections, age, birthday, birthplace, home, favorite room, view out the window, habits, and motive. Most of these things are pretty straightforward, but I'm going to go through and address a couple of things because I noticed these imperfections in my old work when I didn't use character sketches, and I noticed this in a lot of people's work who I can assume don't use character sketches, either that or they're not very good at describing what the character's physical appearance is. The first thing I want to talk about is hair. Now, a lot of people will say, oh, her hair was brown. You know, brown hair, chocolate hair. But really there's a lot more to hair than just the color. You want to describe how your character's hair is cut, how it's styled, what the texture is, what the length is, when the last time, if they keep it brushed. Now, all of this isn't mandatory that you put in the story, but these are details that you need to put in your character sketch so that throughout the story you can kind of sprinkle them in so that the reader continually remembers what the character looks like. Again, it's a very bad idea to go into overboard with your details and you're actually writing, but that's what character sketches are for. Character sketches are the detailed dump of writing, which is very nice because I tend to be quite detailed. The other thing that I want to talk about in this certain template is home and favorite room and view out the window. A lot of people will think, okay, well that's kind of weird. Why would you list your character's view out the window in their favorite room? But the idea of this is that you want to be walking in your character's shoes. Okay, so like if I was Emilia, I don't really have a favorite room. I don't like being at home because I'm not really satisfied with my life. Emilia's favorite room is her office at work because when she's working, she's super busy and she doesn't have time to think about how absolutely miserable her life is. View out the window can be just as important because there's a lot of people who will describe the house itself and then fail to describe the general area around the house. So basically it's like we got this house that's just kind of sitting in the middle of the air. That's the impression I'm getting anyway. The last thing I want to talk about for this bare bones template is the motive. I have motive at the bottom because once you list everything else, then you should kind of have a general idea of who this character's personality is based on their physical appearance, their habits, and their mannerisms. For Emilia's motive, I say she wants to help people and she desperately wants to be loved. Now, this we kind of gather from the physical description, but again, this isn't a complete description or a complete character sketch. This is just the bare bones. The motive leads into the next part of our character sketch, which is going to be the backstory. Now, unfortunately, I lost the backstory to Emilia. I do not know where it is, but we're going to use the one from one of my other characters from Dallas 911, who's lesser known, Callaway DeLuro. No relation to Jason, by the way. For starters, I have this rough outline of what his backstory is generally going to look like, which is just a line of dates and then some of the important things that have happened in his life. From this framework, I will write usually a 500 to 600 word backstory on the character, but there are writers who have written hundreds of pages of just the backstory. It really all depends on you, but the only point of it is you gotta make it super, super detailed so you know what motivates the character, so you know why they're in the story. Really focus on the trauma in your characters' lives so that you can find out more about them, so you know really, really what drives them. The one thing that really motivated DeLuro was in '89 when his parents divorced, because he was really sure of himself before then, but after his parents divorced, then he became afraid to commit to anything because he didn't want it to end as ugly as his parents' divorce did. So consequently, down here, whenever he had made plans to marry Ella, he's not exactly sure he wants to commit to them. After you've written the backstory, there's a couple of other things that I like to do whenever I'm writing character sketches, and I may or may not include this in the folder, and it may end up in the story. One of the things is that I like to write a morning scene for my character, which is basically what an average morning looks like. For DeLuro, he's getting up, he's getting him some coffee, he's getting him whatever it takes to get him awake, and then basically quick shower, dressed, and he's on the road. Boom. One other important thing that you want to do for your characters is that you want to construct a wardrobe for them before you write a morning scene, but you should probably just generally construct a wardrobe for them anyway. There's a couple of ways that you can do this. You can just make up whatever you think that your character would wear, or you can do it the fun way. Something that I like to do is I like to go out on the town to shop for my character, and I just like to feel fabrics, get a general feel of what it was they would buy, what they would be looking at, would they be even interested in shopping. That has led to some pretty humorous occasions. I went into Ulta Beauty one time and I was taking all of the men's cologne samples and spraying them on the little sample card things and just shoving them in my purse because I thought I'm going to find the perfect cologne for this one particular character. I don't know if anybody was looking at me, and I don't care. My character smells like the autumn breeze and springtime when the dew falls upon the morning. The last thing I'm going to talk about is dreams. Dreams can be kind of tricky to write if you're not into symbolism and all of that. Really, when I was introduced to it, I was kind of like, what? But it takes some getting used to. I personally love writing dreams for my characters because to me, dreams in real life, when we have them, have some kind of meaning to them. I'll give you an example. I had a dream one time when I was at the pool with this guy I knew. Now, he wasn't romantically involved with me, and he wasn't even interested in me, I know, because he kind of hates me. So, we were at the pool, and he insisted that he was going to teach me how to swim. But I already knew how to swim, so I was telling him, shove off, I already know how to swim. But he kept coming over and trying to grab at me and make me swim faster. So I eventually reached up and broke his nose and then ran into the bathroom because he was trying to run after me. And I looked down and there was just blood everywhere. And so then I just decided, okay, well, I'm getting out of here. I don't care if I'm in my swimsuit or not. So I jumped out the window and I escaped. Now, the meaning of this dream, I have no idea what it was with the pool and everything, but This guy in particular, I've always known him to be controlling and manipulative, so it made sense in the dream that he was trying to make me act a certain way against my will, because I've always been the person who does not like to be manipulated or controlled. But the important thing about it was that it really showed his character, and it also really showed mine by my actions. Dreams can also be fun because you can dabble in things that would probably never ever happen in real life. For instance, in this certain dream, like I said, that I was at the pool, but for some reason we were underwater the whole time, and I was like breathing underwater and the whole world was underwater, and the passageway to the bathroom was underwater. So I'm not exactly sure how I accomplished that, but nonetheless. Dreams reveal the utmost desire of your characters. So let's say Deluro is a workaholic, like Emilia is, but he also really loves Ella and just doesn't know exactly how to say it. So in a lot of his dreams, in the dream that I wrote him, his work is always pulling him one way in whatever form his work may be. I had it one time where his work was an octopus on dry land that was pulling him away, ripping him away from dinner because it had case files and things to be solved. And Ella was generally distancing herself. You know, she was falling farther and farther away, and Deluro was fighting to get back to her, but he never could seem to just get back to her. So there you have it. You wrote a good physical description, you gave him an awesome backstory, you made your character have a dream that was like tripping on acid, and you shopped for your character, and maybe even stole some cologne samples. But all that's aside the point. Point is, now your character is prepped and ready to walk on the stage of your novel. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. The links to my Instagram and my Facebook page are in the description below so that you can cyberstalk me on there too. Hope you guys have a great week. Bye!